All right. Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday. Jakey Bakey in the house. What's up? Always first on there. And let me get organized here, a little bit more centered. Sounds good. Anyway, why don't we pin up where to reach me? We got Friday's training. Bring your own questions. byoq. Favorite training on Fridays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. David at dmeltzer.com. If you want a free book, reach out to me, David at dmeltzer.com, or join my text community, 949-298-2905. All of it's free. Let's get some questions rolling here. I know I got my friends from the sleep company, Chili Sleep. There he is. Got to have a wind down routine. Got to spend a third, at least pay attention and give intention to your sleep to create the coincidences you want. And there we go. Good morning.
How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Good. How was your sleep last night?
It's always amazing. My wind down routine, my bed, my darkness, my 67 degrees temperature, my sleep coach. I've had a sleep coach for years, but it's because I travel 200 days a year. We're not in contact quite as much because I'm on a sturdy, steady routine in the same bed almost every day. So it's much, much easier to have that amazing sleep and wake up at a higher frequency. So anyway, temperature wise, tell me about Chili Sleep. I know, I've been using it since, gosh, you guys sent me one a while back. So, I believe in temperature is a major component, just like light. And most people know light. Some people know about, energy, negative energy and focus beforehand and situationally what to do with sleep. But one of the most productive things you can do is temperature.
Yeah, it's amazing, actually. So actually, Clifford Sapir out of Harvard was the first person to coin a sleep switch, and it actually is temperature. There's been other studies with hunter-gatherers, and everyone thinks that as the light went down, for some people, light is a bigger factor than temperature, but for a lot of us, temperature is the factor that helps us get to sleep and really helps us get that deep sleep that helps us feel rested the next morning. So it is really critical to get cool enough to get that deep sleep.
And what temperature is ideal for sleeping, or what range of temperature?
Yeah, so that's where it gets complicated, because I think myself, that's what I did wrong for a long time, is I like to curl up in a warm bed, and I thought that being warm was what helped me fall asleep, but it actually doesn't help me stay asleep or get great deep sleep. And so it is sort of that misnomer of what you feel like you want to go to sleep at actually doesn't necessarily help you sleep better. So those cooler temperatures, and when you think about cooler temperatures, not just your house, but like in your bed, if you're using covers, what kind of foam or what kind of mattress you have will have an impact on what temperature there is. But you definitely want to be cold. You want to be in that 60s inside your bed. You want to lower your core body temperature. It wants to go 2 degrees colder. When you think of that, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's your heart and lungs. Everything wants to be 2 degrees colder to get that deep sleep. And that's a pretty significant shift to move that 2 degrees colder. So you want to help your body any way you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And what effects does good sleep have on your awakened hours, which is always something that I look at: productivity, accessibility, and gratitude, our general perspective. What are the benefits of getting great rest?
Yeah, it's almost everything, actually, from your health and your cardiovascular to your memory to all of those different pieces, your immunity. As we look at COVID and how do we protect ourselves, sleep is one of the best ways to protect yourself and pump up your immune system. But it also just allows us to be sharp, and that's one of the things. Sleep actually diminishes with age. It's one of those things that as we get older also does tend to fall off because we don't take as good care of it, and it is harder to get that deep sleep. By the time you're 80, some people get less than 7 minutes. Temperature is a great hack. So all of us that are sleeping cold and we're still able to get 2 hours of deep sleep, we're totally shifting that into getting great sleep no matter what and no matter what age. But that is really important for that memory loss and Alzheimer's, and it just touches everything.
And you talk about deep sleep. People don't realize that just because they're in bed resting or even, unconscious in some respects, doesn't mean that they're actually getting the full effect of the sleep. And that cool bed, and that's the business you're in, really affects that deep sleep. Why does temperature allow you to sleep deeper and get that more rejuvenated sleep?
Yeah, so I like to think about sleep in terms of those three zones of time. One is that fall asleep, and that's where your habits of being intentional and mindful and gratitude and what you do into bed, going into bed, really helps you fall asleep faster, and it is that bedtime spot. But the other two parts of the night where you're unconscious or you should be sleeping, or your deep sleep zone and your REM sleep zone. And you actually have light sleep that functions as sort of that ocean that you flow through to those different spots. But deep sleep is that first half of the night. Again, your core body temperature is trying to drop. Your systems are trying to reset. So it's looking for a chance to reset. And this sleep for us is just like turning your computer or your phone and resetting it and getting a fresh start. That really does happen for our bodies. And just like when our phones get wonky or our bodies get wonky, we have to reset for sleep.
It's amazing because, I look at most people and, I do a lot of executive coaching. Sleep is a major part. Meditation is a major part of what I train and coach and teach. But the analogy that I've used, and this is where sleep has such an impact for me, is that most people live the myth of Sisyphus. They literally work so hard all day, pushing a boulder up a hill all day long. And then because they don't sleep well, they don't have an unwinding routine, they don't sleep at the right temperature, they don't sleep in the right place, in the right light, at the right time, in the right routine, all the different things that I've learned, they literally wake up with the boulder at the bottom of the hill the next day again to start over. And then they wonder why they're not getting anywhere. And you were talking about sleep being, this great catalyst and component of our lives to all aspects, longevity, health, perspective, gratitude, and it does. But I believe sleep, and what I found, from the Chili sleep system, is that allows me to plateau and grow. I think the majority of the people on earth don't know what it's like to wake up at a plateau, not to wake up, at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, you're not waking up behind already like you do when you're exhausted. You do. I love the Snickers commercial of "You're not yourself when you're hangry." You're not yourself when you don't get good sleep, and you can't. You start immediately behind the ball. Your cognitive function, all of those things they're just not the same if you don't have sleep.
And what questions should people be asking when they're looking at Chili sleep, when they're looking at changing the temperature? What are the questions they should be asking when they contact you, when they look at your products and services? What should they be asking?
So always the first thing with sleep, no matter what, is to figure out your chronotype. And your chronotype is what's driven to your body clock. We all have one that's slightly different. It is genetics. There's a gene that governs whether we are a morning person or a night person. And you can take a quiz online. There's a bazillion of them. But knowing when you're supposed to go to sleep and when you're supposed to wake up really does help, because that's matching that temperature to when your body's trying to drop those 2 degrees. So obviously if you're a night owl and you're trying to go to bed at 9 o'clock, that's going to get thrown off. And obviously if you're a morning person and you're not going to sleep till midnight, you're just shortening your window. That clock is still trying to drive you to be cooler, but you may have missed your deep sleep window because you're going to sleep too late. So the first thing is settling down and figuring out when you should be going to sleep. And then start thinking about those 3 zones that I talked about. What are you going to do for bedtime? And that's, what do you need to do to be comfortable? I use a weighted blanket. We have one Chili sleep system for weighted blankets now. So you can have that be whatever temperature. And I make sure that temperature sandwich to fall asleep. But then as soon as I'm asleep, usually within 20-30 minutes, I crank that temperature way down in order to get that really good deep sleep. And our Uller system does allow you to schedule that. So I do warm up a little bit in the morning, and that what it does is it turns off your sleep switch, because it is just like a light switch. When you've turned it on and you're in sleep mode, you want to reverse those hormones back out and get a little burst of cortisol. And when you warm up in the morning, it does actually just help you get that burst, just like your cup of coffee, but it's the natural way.
I jump into a cold shower as well. So I go from cold to warmer to cold again, and it gets me really going. So it's so interesting that we have the chrono clock, because I believe in a quantum memory that we're born with that could come from generations or even past lifetimes. And, it takes so much of the habit machine of discipline and strategy in order to activate, the quantum memory, as well as to make subtle changes Do you believe that you can, though, change and become a morning person if genetically you're born a night owl?
Yeah, our genetics actually, it's a fun topic. We could be here for days on that one.
Oh,
But
yeah.
your genetics of what you're born with obviously are your starting point, but you see it, and there's great studies even of like extreme events. Like you see some of the tracking from people post Holocaust of what generations were affected by the famines they went through, and the strife they went through, that actually affects future things. And they didn't start with those genetics. Any sort of event, you see it in military. So we have one of our adopted sons went in the Marine Corps, and I would say prior to that was not an early riser, but sure as heck, after going through boot camp, he now wakes up at 5 every morning. So again, those extreme events can shift us. And having kids as we move through our lifetime and we go through those different things, those will shift. So our habits, and we can adjust that chronotype pretty easily, even if we're doing like travel. We're not traveling very much now, but when we look at that jet lag, that's really what's happening, is our chronotype hasn't caught up to where we are in that new time zone. So it's absolutely possible to shift it. It's just helpful to know where you're starting, and to kind of just recognize and respect that there is a clock that you have inside of you to do the best you can to do that.
Last question, and a lot of people are starting to realize this today, is that we all know the heart and the mind are connected to each other, especially in the sleep realm. But the stomach is so important now. We know the stomach is connected to the heart and connected to the mind, and probiotics and what we eat and when we eat absolutely affect our sleep. And this was a big issue for me to understand and learn when and what to eat, why sometimes I wasn't getting to the deep enough sleep, or REM even, because of the timing and the types of food that I was eating. How critical is the diet to sleep?
It is. I kind of do it. It's a last call for alcohol and food 3 hours before you go to bed. And it is a buzzkill. So, part of understanding all habits is to know there'll be exceptions. And obviously, if are out with friends on a Friday night and decide to blow that and just do it, you just need to know you're going to lose some of that deep sleep. Temperature can help mitigate that, but your metabolism revs up to burn that alcohol, to burn that food. And what it does is it, again, makes your body hotter, and it can't drop that 2 degrees. And so it really is important to try to mitigate that, even more so when you drink later or eat later, that temperature is going to affect your sleep. So it does. It's not the fun party way. Sleep is
No,
not
I
a
like the
party
last
animal.
call of my wind down, because I use that 3 hour rule for my wind down of what I eat and what I drink. Caffeine and alcohol, by the way. Caffeine's
Yep.
another detriment to what we do. And moreover, where can people find Chili Sleep?
Yeah, come find us at chilitechnology.com. I'm online as Sleep Geek. I've written a book recently called Reprogram Your Sleep that's on Amazon, so you can check that out. But I love getting questions, so ping me anytime to ask any questions you have. Read our blog, do whatever you can. But bottom line is, treat sleep with respect, because it really will treat you back if you take care of yourself with it.
Yeah, no, and you fall within my grandfather's golden rule of life, which I put into my first book, right? You only need 3 things in life to be happy. You got to have a job that you can learn to love to do. You got to have one intimate partner that's the liaison between you and everybody else. And you need the best bed or sleep that you can find. A third of your life is spent working or activity you get paid for, a third of your life with your family and friends, and most importantly, a third of your life sleeping. So make sure you honor it to promote it in the necessary way. I appreciate you joining me. Thank you so much. Check them
Yes.
out. We'll
Thank you
see you
very much.
soon. Thank you for the
Bye.
great advice. Great
Bye.
answers. You gotta love that. Change a third of your life right there. Here on my IG Live, you can change a third of your life simply by understanding sleep. My mom's golden rule of parenting was, by the way, wake everybody up at 5 and use her martial art, the 3rd degree black belt of Jewish guilt, in order to drive us and wake us up early enough, not only for the healthy effects of the sleep, but to keep us out of trouble, right? We didn't have enough energy on Friday or Saturday night to make it to when the trouble started. So looking great here. Is Ariel in here? I just thought I saw her. Perfect. My muse. This is Ariel is one of the most interesting. Oh, I was just bragging about you.
And poof, here I am. It's like magic on Instagram.
You're amazing. I love having you. Anyway, I have not received my Muse yet, but I'm going to. So it may be the COVID mail or the office itself. But thank you so much. I wanted to have you back on, of course, because our conversations, we could speak for hours and hours and hours. I want to start with, what are you working on today that's interesting?
Oh, okay. So I heard the whole sleep conversation, and that's actually what we're working on now. Yeah. So our new device, Muse S, helps you fall asleep. It's a really beautiful experience. It gives you guided meditations to help you quiet your mind. And then it builds a soundtrack from your body that actually helps you fall asleep in a way that's designed to help allow you to sleep faster. So when you were a little kid, somebody read you a bedtime story if you were lucky, and as you started to get sleepy, their voice would slow right down, and as your eyes fluttered closed, they would gently close the book and move away. You actually had somebody who is interacting with you as you fell asleep and guiding you towards sleep. So that's actually what we're able to do with the Muse device. It's tracking your brain, your heart, your breath, and your body, and it's giving you this beautiful real-time feedback experience that guides you into sleep, that actually shifts and changes as you relax to make it even more relaxing for you and entrain your body into sleep.
That is awesome. How much of it is vibrational or frequency based? So, obviously I utilize theta meditation. I'm hypersensitive to understanding the frequency or awareness that I'm at. And even in my wind down routine, I surround myself with the right frequencies, right? And I don't want any interruptions or disruptions into the frequency or inputs that I'm taking in a vibrational sense. And so have you guys looked into and utilizing, it's one thing to read a bedtime story and it's a natural security with most of the time a parent or a grandparent doing it. So that comfort itself, the energetic connection that you have between the two people have a lot to do it. And then of course, the sound, the comfort of the voice and the frequency of the voice that we're used to. But here we're using an external source to coordinate what I think is a frequency or a vibration without the emotional connection. Have you guys taken into consideration the vibration and frequency, and what is that in order to effectuate better sleep?
So it's actually building the emotional connection that you have with yourself. So when you are falling asleep, a lot of the reason that people don't fall asleep is your mind is racing. Your mind is racing, you're thinking about all sorts of different topics, you're not allowing your body to shut down. So we give you a guided meditation that allows your mind to calm right down, to bring your attention onto your body, to spend time with your heart rate. You're actually hearing the sound of your heart rate in the soundscape. So the soundscape is actually built from your body. So the beating of your heart, you can hear like the beating of a drum or the chirping of crickets. There's a sound of waves, and that can actually be built from your own breath. So you're literally listening to your body's own rhythms. And as your body's rhythms slow down, as your heart rate slows down, the sound of the drum slows down. As your breath slows down, the lapping of the waves slows down, and that entrains you even further into sleep. And then from an EEG perspective, we're looking at your shifts in brain state and helping you get into a lower and lower EEG state. So you are literally getting into harmony with your own body. It is the most amazing thing. It's lovely.
I can't wait. It's so interesting because what you do is so interesting, especially to me. It is aligned with so many of the things that I think are most important in my life, to live a happier, healthier, more appreciative, grateful existence, really. And yet it's still a business. And, this Friday I'm doing my byoq, bring your own questions, for everyone to ask their business questions or life questions as well. Do you have any business questions for me? I know that we talk so much about your extraordinary knowledge of how the brain, the stomach, and the heart all work in symbiosis and synergy to create this higher awareness and happier feeling. But do you have any business questions that I can help you with?
Oh, that's an interesting one. So as a business, we're doing really well. We got incredibly lucky that we started into the world of meditation just as people were aware that meditation was important and something that's hard to do. So we now have hundreds all over the world that use Muse, like literally hundreds of thousands of them. We have over 200 published studies. Mayo Clinic just published a study with breast cancer patients awaiting surgery using Muse. They're doing 5 more studies in different conditions. So I feel like from a business perspective, we're probably in a pretty great place, but I'm happy to answer any business questions that might be inspiring for your audience.
Yes, I would love that.
I've been on the entrepreneurship journey for a decade.
So I do a lot of executive coaching, and someone who's in the meditation spot of the knowing of all and not knowing. I find it very interesting that someone who's running a business would say that their business is fine and you have no questions. So how is it that you're an entrepreneur in a successful business and yet you feel you have nothing that you need to know or learn? How don't you think that's in conflict with literally your own business?
Absolutely. Part of it is because you've just asked me completely off the bat, you know, do you have any business questions? Part of it is because my role right now is not the actual day-to-day operation of the business. There's somebody else who's amazing, Derek Luke, who's the day-to-day operations running of the business. I've also been, you know, 10 years of running this business through a lot of ups and downs. COVID was terrifying when it first began. You know, it was that moment of like, everything is changing in your business. How are you going to survive? We're all moving online. We are all, you know, are people going to be purchasing product anymore? Is there going to be an economy left for people to be purchasing product in? What is the role of our specific product at this moment here and now? You know, how can we best serve people? What is the content that we should generate to serve people? So we've definitely in the last little bit been on a roller coaster. We're just starting our FDA process to get our Muse device FDA certified. And so there's an entirely different strategy that's involved there. And I guess the reason that I had no questions is at this moment in time, I'm so grateful for where we've been able to navigate the business in the face of all of this uncertainty. The moment of like, wow, I feel we've done a really good job, and I'm so grateful that we've been able to navigate to here and manage to support the team and serve the customers and keep all the trains running at the same time.
I appreciate you allowing me, number one, to put you on the spot, two, to ask the difficult question, because your answer, and I know just from the few times that we've spoken that you're somebody in a place where you could handle it and hopefully still be grateful and still love me because I love you. But I thought that answer, that answer was so telling for my audience, right? Is that, you know, my audience knows it well enough. They're probably sitting there going, oh my gosh, there's nothing, you know, there's no business that doesn't have challenges or ideas or thoughts or whatever. And I really appreciate you illuminating, you know, why and how, and including, hey, you off the spot asked me a question and it's not really my role, responsibility, or expertise. And I think that's important for people to know, because one of the greatest lessons that I've learned as an entrepreneur is to say, you know, that I'll find the answer, or that's really not my expertise, or I don't know. And so I, you know, want that lesson as well. Now, as we finish up to one of the great enlightenments, you've been a great teacher of mine in the few times that we've had these sessions and really shifted my perspective. I always say it's not what you say, it's what they hear. And I think the same thing holds true with Muse. You know, a lot of people, there's a lot of mechanisms to meditate. And it's not what people, you know, say or do with meditation, it's what they hear or experience. And through that process of learning, and you called it a practice of quieting, right? You're a tool or a mechanism to practice quieting of conscious, subconscious, and unconscious being. And it's so fascinating to me and so exciting to me. But within that realm of quieting, you know, there's still this idea of, you know, pursuit, and the blend of pursuit. You know, you're running a business, you guys have hundreds of thousands of clients, you want it to grow and market and all this. You're in the pursuit, but yet you're in the business and the practice of quieting. How do you reconcile, you know, this? Because I think this is a key question for all entrepreneurs. They don't understand, how can you let things go if you're trying to create your vision? How do you blend pursuit with that quieting practice?
That's an awesome question. So
much better than the last one that put you on the spot.
I love being put on the spot. I mean,
all right, I just want to make sure. I love you. I don't want to offend you.
Like, where do we go? Like, make me as vulnerable as possible. We're all here to just learn and figure it out. Totally cool.
Awesome.
So one of the ways you marry those two things is service. So what we are doing is in service of somebody, of something else, someone else. We're in service of teaching people this process that we believe is going to be really valuable for them. So through our, pushing and striving, more quiet in the rest of the world. Other people, the ability to what's going on and manage what's going on. So that's answer one. Service to me is answer for any question. Why do you do the things that you do? Service of others. Like, we are all here to make the long as while you're doing it, you're making the world better. The second answer is it's really hard. And initially, I worked on this business like crazy, up every night till 2 a.m, but it was done out of passion. None of it ever seemed hard. And so somebody would look on the outside and say like, oh my God, you're like, are you burning yourself out? You're pushing yourself so hard. And it never felt like I was pushing myself too hard. It was just like, this is what I want to do. This is burning inside of me. Like, if I don't do it, it's going to be worse. So this has to happen. And so it was always done with this place of joy and excitement and enthusiasm. And the challenges were all just opportunities, things to figure out. And it is really hard, being an entrepreneur. There are ups and there are downs. And the process of meditation and the tools that you learn of acceptance help you, accept the ups and accept the downs. And part of what meditation teaches you is to not fight where something's not working. So you learn to come to a place of a barrier or a difficulty, and a lot of people will just keep banging their head against the difficulty and saying, why me? Why isn't this working? Why isn't this happening? When you accept that there is a difficulty there is a barrier, there is a challenge, then you can release yourself to go in a different direction. You can release yourself to find a way around it. You can release yourself to be like, oh, okay, let me see where the opportunity is. And you take your eye off of the thing that wasn't working that we tend to be so focused on, and you open your vision more widely to see what else is there and navigate towards the next point. I think another way, tension between, striving and non-striving, if we want to sell, is I've never been afraid to put myself in any situation that could be advantageous for the business. And I don't tend to feel stressed in it. So like, we needed to raise money for the business. I learned how to pitch. I was like, okay, I need to go find VCs. And I threw myself in front of Sand Hill Road VCs, like Silicon Valley VCs. And I was not afraid to be there. I did not feel inside myself that, I wasn't worth it, that, this is going to be so hard, I can't handle it, that they're going to think terrible things about me. It was just like, I believe in this so deeply. I'm here with joy and passion, and this is what I'm doing. And as a result, raised initially $18 million from venture funding.
That's
so
awesome.
there's this place that you can get to inside of yourself where you open yourself up to possibility, where you allow yourself to move with what's happening, where you move over challenges, which there will be, but you don't dwell on them. You don't pull yourself down into them. You don't pull your team into the pain of them. You accept their existence. You figure out a solution and you navigate. And it feels more like flow than it does like, pushing rocks uphill.
Exactly. Well, that's an awesome answer. You said the word enthusiasm, and I've lived my life with most people asking me, "Oh, you're working too hard. You're burning yourself out." Like, since I've been 24, probably even before that, when I was in law school, and I said, "No, I live an enthusiastic life in theos, constantly trying to clear the interference and connection that I have with this great source of light, love, and lessons that were there." And I know that you and I share that experience and journey. And the muse itself, the product, is actually just a catalyst or a tool in order to effectuate that clearing, that quieting, that lessening of the interference and corrosion, not just between us and the source of energy and light and love and lessons that we're connected to, but I think you articulated as well everything else, including Sand Hill Road VCs, into highly compressed uncertainty and other people would consider stressful. So what great enlightenment. I appreciate you so much, Ariel. Thank you so much. Where can people find you? Oh, you can't hear me anymore. Well, at least it happened at the very end. I love you. Thank you. Follow Ariel. Check out the Muse. Go watch the replay. We got to go back like 4 times in persistence. Is she awesome or what? I just want to publicly apologize for putting her to a difficult question in a difficult situation. I always like to use my platform to promote people, to provide them an opportunity. And so she and I have a unique relationship, a challenging question that she handled remarkably well. This shows you why they were able to raise so much money and why they are successful. I saw Brian here earlier. Hopefully he'll come back. He came on at 8:15. I'm hoping you're still around. I had you down at 8:30. An incredible performance coach, a man who knows resilience, a man who knows how to enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of their potential. Let's see if we can find Brian in here. Let's answer a quick question or two. Are there steps you take to forgive someone when there's still a part of you that is upset? Forgiveness, like quieting, is a practice. So learn to forgive yourself, and then you can forgive others. What does that mean to forgive yourself? You got to take gratitude in the situation, find the light, the love, and the lesson. You got to have forgiveness and accountability combined in there. Hey, Brian, how are you?
What's going on, brother? I'm great. How are you?
Amazing, amazing. I am so glad to have you on. People, literally can utilize a little shot in the arm, no pun intended, someone that can give them resilience and perspective in performance. And I know you work with a lot of athletes as well, but the same context that I help all of my athletes, I work with chairmen and CEOs and entrepreneurs throughout the world now with very similar philosophies. But I really want you to share, number one, your story, and then 2, some great advice for us about performing better and having a better perspective.
Fantastic. Happy to do so. So I want everybody listening for just a second to just imagine walking out of a store, walking to your car after a successful shopping trip, and turning your head to see a truck barreling 40 miles an hour right at you with no time to react. That's where my story, or this portion of my story, begins. We went to Walmart to get a 1-inch paintbrush. And as we're walking to the car, right, you can probably tell just in the 2 seconds we've been talking, right, I've always had an excitement and vigor for life. So of course I was the first one to the car ahead of my mom and my brother, ready to get home and use that 1-inch paintbrush. And as we did that, we got there, I'm standing there with my hand on the handle, waiting for my mom to unlock the doors, and a truck pulled up in front of the store. Driver and middle passenger got out. Passenger all the way to the right felt the truck moving backwards, did exactly what any one of us would have done, and scooted over to put his foot on the brake, but he instead hit the gas. Combination of shock and force threw him up onto the steering wheel, up onto the dash, and before you know it, he's catapulting 40 miles an hour across the parking lot right at us. Now, we were parked in an end spot, and so it went up and over the median, went up over the tree in the median, hit our car, and as I told you, I was holding onto the handle, so it yanked me down to the ground, ran over me diagonally, tore my spleen, left a tire track scar on my stomach, and continued to sever my left arm completely from my body. Ripped it off. It was 10 feet away, and this was a 115-degree day in the middle of August in Phoenix, Arizona. So we're laying now in the asphalt, adding 10 to 15 degrees, and my guardian angel walked out of the store right when that happened. She saw the life and limb scenario in front of her, ran over, and immediately put her hands on my arm to stop the bleeding to save my life, and simultaneously instructed some other innocent bystanders to run into the store, grab a cooler, fill it with ice from the convenience center to get my arm on ice within minutes. Had either of those 2 things happened, I wouldn't be here with you today, and there'd be 0 chance my arm would be reattached. And so I'm sure that a lot of your listeners weren't expecting it to go there today, right? And so what I will say is that in all the time I've done this, the biggest thing that I've learned is that it's important for us to become aware of the lessons we can extract from our lives, and then become intentional with how do we apply those in our lives. And how do we do that as a collective society, right? Because I can learn from you, you can learn from me, and how do we tap into the collective wisdom to help us move forward? So I'll share with you 2 primary lessons that I learned that have really been implemental in everything I've done in my life. The first is I learned not to get stuck by what had happened to me, but instead get moved by what I could do with it. And second And this wasn't a lesson that I learned until far later, and frankly had to do with all the sacrifice, time, and commitment my parents put in basically to better me, to make sure that I would be okay, that I could use my arm. What I learned is to embrace pain to avoid suffering. And the beautiful part about doing that is when you can embrace pain, it becomes a catapult and a lily pad towards your success. And the beautiful part about it is you gain freedom. So it's the same concept that I use to not only overcome this unique injury, but also how my business partners and I built our last business from nothing to over 15 million within a decade, and how I've used it to help hundreds of individuals and businesses become more aware, more intentional, and more of who they already are, because that's when the door begins to crack to perspective, motivation, and direction.
You know, it's an incredible story, and I was holding back emotion. I'm a very empathetic person, and you could probably see me grab my arm when you showed your arm, and my heart was just like thinking of the person that saved your life and that had the wisdom to get the ice to save your arm, because there was two saviors that occurred. But one of the things that most people didn't realize about your story that is a key component to your unbelievable performance and your unbelievable perspective and passion to help others is another P, by the way. I'm not a huge Jim Quick alliteration fan, but I'm going to use it. You have extraordinary patience. And I would love for you to share the lessons of patience. And the reason I know, by the way, I know everyone's watching, how did I know that he had extraordinary patience? It wasn't about the injury and what it would take to rehab an injury, even though I've been in sports for years and rehab for years, and I know that takes patience. But I loved his perspective of when he said, I built a $15 million company and it only took me less than a decade, where I wish I could transfer that knowledge and feeling and perspective to all entrepreneurs, that it's only a decade. Right? It doesn't happen in 8 months. There's no overnight successes in entrepreneurship. Just like there's no, shortcuts to rehab, to saving your life, to becoming stronger and learning the lessons and enduring pain so that you can experience the benefit of it, right? I believe pain is an indicator, right? I talk about being a turn signal. It's an indicator that you have a mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, or financial lesson to learn. That's all it is to me. So I can endure an indicator. Yeah. I haven't been sentenced. I haven't been tortured. I haven't been punished. I haven't been plagued. This is what people think of pain. I've just been indicated that I have something better in front of me, a better situation, a better place to go. I just have to turn directions and learn a lesson. So I would love for you, as we finish up, to share the lesson of patience, because I think beyond persistence, most people don't have any patience.
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, and I loved what you said. There is no such thing as an overnight success, and I wish I could credit the person who made this quote. I just honestly can't remember, but it resonates with me very strong. People are celebrated in public for what they've practiced in private for years. When they practice in private for years, that's typically them turning into and embracing pain on a daily basis. So I'm a big believer that if we are very clear on what's important to us in life, if we are very intentional in the way that we set up our lives so that it's in alignment, we can truly live a life of no limits, and it becomes self-regulating. But it also means that we've got to set goals that are big enough that we're not protecting ourselves. It also means that we have to recognize that nothing happens overnight. And it also means that anything that's meaningful in life isn't easy, right? So I'll give a couple of examples of this concept, because I completely agree with you when you talk about pain. What I struggle with is that the world tells us to reduce, eliminate, or avoid pain. I'm telling you, the world is wrong, right? But we are conditioned as an evolutionary fight or flight response to avoid pain, right? But when I say embrace pain, avoid suffering, suffering creeps up on us without acknowledgement often, or even understanding, and often to the point that it's irreversible. So what are the things, if we're clear on what we want, what are the things that if we know the direction that we're headed, that we can do on a daily basis, on a consistent basis, that will have a compound effect over time? Right? I have never seen somebody blow up into a new industry in anything less than a decade. And if they do, it's an anomaly for some variety of reasons. And so when you think about this concept, that's where the patience comes from, is it allows me to recognize if I focus on my purpose and my purpose is big enough, it overtakes the pain on a daily basis. So I can hit the gym and embrace the pain of working out 30 minutes to an hour a day to avoid the suffering and the aches and pains of a sedentary lifestyle. I can embrace the pain of firing my brother-in-law from my business because they're the biggest cancer and drain on the culture, and to avoid the suffering of limited growth and impact of what we want to do through our business, right? I can embrace the pain of a difficult conversation with my wife to avoid a loveless marriage that might end up in divorce, right? And suffering that might come from that. And so we need to redefine what pain is, because when we turn into pain, when we acknowledge the suffering we wish to avoid, which is really getting clear on what's important to us, we learn the pains that we are necessary for us to embrace on a daily basis, and then we establish as a habit in our lives. Patience is just inherent in that, because you get to win every day when you know that on a daily basis, you're doing what you need to do to drive towards where you want to go and the impact you want to have on the world.
It's so awesome, dude. You and I share so many similar philosophies, and I love how you explain compound interest, not just in the positive respect, but how compound interest with pain, if we avoid the suffering, like you said. Within the context of that, you know, being able to endure pain or to have the right perspective of pain, I have a philosophy of gratitude, meaning that I learned, like, I think there's a lot of suck, so that's a lot of pain. No matter who you are, I've been blessed to be around the greatest celebrities, athletes, entertainers, executives, politicians, the people that people dream of being, and their lives suck, right? They have a percentage of suck in their life. There's certain things that are super cool, extraordinarily cool, but they have about equal percentage of suck as everybody else has equal percentage of suck. And yet, people like you and I, we find the light, the love, and the lessons in the suck, in the pain.
That's right.
So when we see and endure the pain, we immediately, instead of going to why me, we go to a try me attitude and say, all right, where's the light in this? Where's the love in this? And even the way that you explained, I love the way you explained your relationship with your wife, because that was a similar thing that I learned in my own relationship with my wife, right? She was avoiding suffering with me until finally she had enough pain that she's like, dude, you are lost and I'm leaving you. I'm in pain. And then I was in shock because I've been married over 10 years already. And for someone who I'm living in, you know, a mansion with cars and boats and motorhomes and trips around the world and living nannies, for someone out of the blue, right? That was really difficult. And fortunately, I responded in the right way and was catalytic in my life. For last thing, real quick, how do you practice finding the light, the love, and the lessons? You know, I know you were given an opportunity at a very young age to find it because you had no choice. And I know I was given an opportunity to find it when I lost over $100 million with no choice. How do people that don't have traumatic, you know, huge events, just daily pain and suck, how do they, you know, get off that law and get to finding the light, the love, and the lessons in it?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, and I love everything you just said, by the way. I'm going to use another P word because I think it's one that really does point us at what's important, and it's called perspective, right? I think it's very easy for us to recognize in our lives that we can be grateful, but it causes us to go inward. It also causes us to look at the world outward and realize how blessed we actually are. Regardless of how much or how little we have, we are here on the planet with the ability to breathe, right? And contribute into the world. And so perspective is one of the first things that really started to help me understand these concepts, because as I was laying in that bed at 7 years old, there's a whole lot of the world that you don't understand at 7. And frankly, I didn't realize all of this, but one thing that was very strong for me was perspective, because what I did realize is in the 2 to 3 weeks that I was in that hospital bed right after, I was able to look around and realize that there was other kids in the ICU that were there because of terminal illnesses that might not live another month. At that point, whether or not I could use my arm again was irrelevant. My life was saved. I had the ability to wake up and be happy, healthy, and productive. And so that was something that from a very early age, I was able to look around and realize, you know what, I've got it very good. I'm extremely blessed. And I think perspective can come when you seek it. Perspective can also come with the types of people and things that you surround yourself with, right? So you just talked about your wife and the impact that she had on your life. My wife has had multiple impacts on my life, but a year ago today, almost today exactly, we had a very deep conversation, and it started the path for me to realize that, guess what? I wasn't accomplishing the perspective and the impact on the world that I wanted. And she literally pointed at me and she said, Brian, I think you're waking up every single day uninspired right now. And I had some other health issues that went on a few years back. And she said, I think you allowed fear to enter into your life in a way that you haven't. And I know you're just barely scratching the surface of what you want. I think you're dying a little bit inside every day you live in insurance and your other business. And so she said, we took a bet on you once, let's take a bet on you again and double down. And so it was literally about a year ago that we started the process of evaluating the human behavior and performance and speaking business that I started 5 years ago might actually be where I can fulfill what I believe I'm put on this planet to do. And so last October, I made the decision and I executed my buy-sell agreement and my partnership May 31st this year. And so June 1st, I went full time, because right now in particular, what the world needs is perspective. What the world needs is human connection. What the world needs is the ability to recognize that right now we have an opportunity to embrace pain. So I embrace the pain of walking away from a great business, great income, great lifestyle to avoid the suffering of not ever knowing what I could become and the impact that I could have. And so anybody that's listening today, right, I want you to seek perspective. And I want you to turn into the pains that you can choose on a daily basis to make sure that you're bettering yourself to ultimately better the world. Because if we focus on impact over impressions, and if we focus on how we can help everybody else, right, that's what's killing me right now about the world, is the separation, the polarization, the inability for us to come together as a humankind to realize that people are suffering. And I get great joy out of reducing the suffering for others. So like you want to impact 1 billion people and empower them to be happy, right? I also have a mission. I want to impact 1 billion people. And I want to reduce the suffering for 1 billion people, because that's when the door starts to open to happiness, fulfillment, and joy.
That is so awesome. And you are absolutely one of my 1,000 that I'm counting on to empower. You've already outreached 1,000 to impact 1,000, which would only be 1 million. I know you're going to do billions as well. And we got more Brians in the world to do that. With Dave Meltzer, we are going to change the collective consciousness, as you suggest.
Yes.
We are going to change the collective consciousness to abundance, to a world of more than enough, to this perspective of that happiness, health that we want to have. And you have an incredible perspective and articulate it so well, man. We got to get back together again. Got to get on office hours, the playbook. I need more Brian, promoting Brian to help people. One thing did came to mind when you were talking, but business and your life. I want to remind people, you talked about privately and then publicly. You know, privately, people will laugh at you, scoff at you, make fun of you, tell you what they want for you. But in the end, if you stick to it and endure that pain and learn from it, they will applaud you eventually publicly, and you will receive and be able to give even more. So, Brian, thank you so much. Where can people reach out to you and meet with you?
Yeah, so the easiest place is my website. So brianbogert.com. I'm going to spell the last name because it's byoq, because a lot of people misspell it. But everything is there, a whole lot of information. And for anybody listening today, I also have a free offer for them. Go to nolimitsprelude.com. It's going to be a quick little roadmap that are going to teach you how to get clear on what's important to you and the pains that you need to start embracing on a daily basis so that you can implement these concepts in your own life.
Brian, winners win. Thank you for winning with me. I appreciate everything you do. Let's get back together, okay?
I'd love to, brother. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you.
Absolutely. What a great guest. 2 of my favorite people there in a row. What a great guest. Yes, Nick, what a great guest. Thank you. I love that. BOGERT, just like Meltzer, Seltzer with an M. Email me. You want to find out more on my free books. I'll send you to Brian as well to get his free stuff. David@dmeltzer.com. Free training on Friday. byoq. Bring your own questions on Friday. We're going to hit it for an hour straight, just answering questions, learning from each other. Personal, professional questions, spiritual questions. I don't care what kind of questions. If I know it, I will help. If I don't, I will send you to someone like Brian that does. Text me to join my community for free training. Register, free books if you want it, free exercises and guides on networking, ultimate ego, perfect pitch. Check the perfect pitch out. Came out on the playbook. You can catch the replays of everything. Everything's on replay. So please, everybody, join me. Let's take one quick question and then call it a day. I'll start with a great question. What are you most grateful for today? I am always grateful, number 1, for my health, number 2, for my family, number 3, for the activity I get paid for. Number 1, for my health, 2, for my family, 3, for the activity I get paid for. Those are the 3 things that I'm grateful for today, just to start. And I start every day with what I'm grateful for, and I end every day with what I'm grateful for. Metaphysics, quantum physics, all types of physics tell us that's the best way to change your life. Allow yourself to create voids for the universe to fill by being grateful, by finding the light, the love, and the lessons in everything you do. Prioritize it by your own values, personal, experiential, giving and receiving values. Thank you, everyone. Please come join me on Friday. Join me every day here. But BYOQ, bring your own questions. You want my free book? You want free training? Please reach out, David@dmeltzer.com, or text me, 949-298-2905. Be kind to your future self. Thank you to all my guests, and do good deeds. Thank you.